Right, welcome back to part 3 of the centre section structure. What we need to do now, everything's dried on our trailing edge areas that we done last time you were watching. Now what we need to do is we need to introduce our forward leading edge, which slots in there. It's 15 inches long. I've had to cut it down to get it to fit. It's quite a nice fit. Again, it will sit at the top of the ribs. And also what we've got to do is our W3 ribs, because we've got this carbane mount in here, I've had to notch them 132 deep, so when they sit in there it clears the carbane mount. Also with our false riblets, again I've had to notch them again, but they are 1/8 because they will actually go, they're slightly larger than the W3s. So the next job really is to get the leading edge glued in, which is what I'll do now. When you come back you should see that in, and then we can start putting some of our W3 ribs in. Right, while we're waiting for our leading edge to dry, I've looked at the instructions and we can actually put in our trailing edge pieces. Again, they've been shaped prior to putting on the video. And while we're also doing that, we can also start putting in our top sheeting up to the main spar, which we'll do now. Again, I've epoxied the ribs in W3, but these can just be put in with aliphatic glue. That'll be plenty strong enough for the purposes. So without further ado, I'll start putting these in. And run a blob of glue down there, blob of glue up the W6, glue up there, and obviously there, and then it's just a case of placing it in line, wiping off any excess, and then just pin it into place, making sure everything's nice and square while we're waiting for it to dry. So I'll do this side and I'll move on to the other side. It's worth noting as well that on this particular plan it says that on the W6 rib, because it's at an angle, we need to cut the recess where the notch has been done. It was just a straight cut and we've had to just angle it so the trailing edge can sit in. So that was just done with a craft knife, and that's just allowed us to put our straight edge across it. Do the same thing on the other side, which you may be able to see a bit clearer on the video. Again, run some glue down there along the trailing edge end, along there, in there, and just up to there, and then just again butt it into there, making sure it's nice and in line with the wing trailing edge. And again, if I can find the right size pins, pin it into place to keep it in position while it dries. Okay. Again. Pin into place. We're happy that it's all nicely secured. This one seemed a little bit thin to push in, it might be, so just give it a gentle tap and that's holding that in place there. Now what we can do, now that's in position, while we've got our strips and our glue out, we can offer in our top sheeting. As you can see, top sheeting is a little bit longer, so what I do is just mark it either end and take it away with a straight edge. Make a cut. You can't actually see this, I don't think, because the video's panned right in the model. When we come back, you should see That's a nice secure fit, and again that can be glued in with a little bit of glue on the trailing edge. Run it down the ribs, likewise on the W3 rib. That's now glued to the wing section. Push into place. Just forgot to put a little bit on the top edge. Push into place and then wipe off with our cloth if there's any excess glue. Let's just take that out of the way. Keeps everything nice and tidy. And then again carefully pin it into place just to hold it in position while it dries. Okay. I like to use a few pins going down, and I know there's a good bond all the way down. Okay, and then nothing can flex up, because sometimes when this wood gets moist it likes to bow a little bit, so some people think this is overkill, but I like to do this just because I want to be sure that everything's nice and snugly fit together. I'll do this side here now, just again like we've done before. Some glue in there, run it down the side. I'm quite liberal with the glue here because this is all got to be nice and strong, so a little bit extra glue here isn't going to add that much weight, and it's not going to do it any harm in terms of finished strength. Okay, so we'll pop that into position, making sure it's butt up to the other sheeting, and then again with our pins just gently pin them into position, working down the entire length to make sure that we've got a nice tight fitting leading edge. Again, it's worth doing all this now because if we can get it all nice and secure now, it saves any problems later on. Okay, I think we're nearly there on this one. So what I'll do now, I'll do the other side exactly the same, and get back to you once that's done. Right, the next job we need to do, now we've got our top sheeting in, that's done both sides and all pinned in, that's going to dry off overnight. The next job we need to do now is put our W3 ribs in. As you remember, there's two small riblets at the front, so I've notched them as mentioned earlier, and it's just a case now of gluing them into position. The first one goes up against our wing root, and as I've done with the other parts of this rib, I've epoxied them, and I'm going to put them into position, butt up tight, remembering that we got 332 sheeting to go on top of that, so we just have to remember that when we put this in, there is enough gap left on the top to accept the 332 sheeting. That should sit flush with the top of the leading edge. Again, this is a little bit one of those jobs that can be a little bit fiddly. So that's gone in, and push that in, and just to make sure the gap is there, I've just got a bit of 332, and we're a little bit low, so That's just right now. So again, I'm just going to put a clamp on that one there to make sure it's all held into position. Put one down here, I think, and I'm going to put another one just at the top to pull that into position, and it's also sitting quite nicely on our carbane mount. Again, the next rib I'm going to do in a similar manner, and I am going to use epoxy on this. It's just that I have some to hand, so I'm just going to do the notch, and the notch is where the rib locates into the top and rear spars, and obviously the front where that's going to sit against the leading edge. Again, hopefully I can get in there, sit that in to position, its right location, and make sure it's nice and square. Again, a bit fiddly because we're working in quite a confined space. A little patience and a little time spent will hopefully save us dividends later on. Again, just check that's nice and square, which it is. That just needs to come over a little fraction. Okay, what I am going to do for good measure, I'm just going to put a little blob of resin there. When that dries, that'll just help keep that from being knocked out. Okay, so again I need to do the same on the other side, which I'll do, and then we come back. Really we've got to start putting in our false ribs, so I'll just do the other side and then I'll get back to you. Right, now those ribs are in position. I've just noticed I've knocked this one inadvertently. We can now move on to putting in our false ribs. I just need to do this first. Okay, that's it, then I managed that. Right, so our false ribs, we have two that we've had to notch 1/8 out of the bottom of to sit over the carbane mount, and then the rest are just normal false ribs as we use on our wings. So what we do with that, again, all I'm going to do is I'm going to use aliphatic glue for the rest of these now. Piece in the notches, piece on the leading edge end of the rib, and just offer that into position, making sure we get it over the rib lines on the plan. And again, make sure it's actually sitting flush with the top of the, it's alive, the wing, and then just pin into place, and then just make sure we're all square. You can't actually get a square in there, so it's just done by eye, but it's not too bad. Again, same with the other side. There we go. There we go. Again, I will clean off any excess glue once I've got all these in. Keep things nice and tidy. I think I've just knocked that other rib again. And sometimes it's just knocked him slightly out of sync. And again, we get there in the end. Again, make sure this rib sits flush. If a pin helps, put a pin in. Just square this one up again. That's the beauty of 30-minute epoxy as well. You can get in there and realign things if you knock them while it's still wet. I suppose the better thing would have been to do was to let it cure totally before I started messing around. Sometimes a little impatient, I like to get on with the build. And that's those ones in now. Now all I need to do is put the 4 ones without the notches in, and again it's just a case of putting your aliphatic glue either end and then popping them into their final positions. Taking care, these are a little bit easier to square up because we haven't got our shear webs in at the moment, so we can take a step back once we got them in and line them up by eye from this end here. So that looks pretty good to me. So what I'll do is I'll just carry on now, put in, just got 2 more to put in. I'll do that, and then when we come back it will just be a case of building this centre box session where our clear screen is going to go on top. Right, all our false ribs are in, they've all lined up, and I've got to tidy up, got any bits of glue that were unsightly off, and now we can start working on this skylight section. On the pup this was open, but we got a piece of clear acetate sheet that will sit on the top of these ribs, but we need to box this in. So what we need to do, we got 2 pieces of 1/8 balsa about 3 inches long. This one's 1.5 inches, and that slots into there like so. And there's just a little bit of recess to accept the acetate sheet. Likewise down this end, we have another 1/8 by 3 inch, and that's about 1.25 inches, because obviously the rib tapers off. The next job for that really is to glue them in. That's quite a simple process. We can do that while you're watching. It's just basically, it's a bit like putting in shear webs, running a section of glue on the top and the bottom and either side, and then just locating into position. Again, we can either clamp that or pin it. Just get my little tool to run a little bit of the excess glue that we have coming out there, because we want the acetate to sit nice and snugly on there. And I'm not going to clamp, I think I'm just going to use a couple of pins down here just to keep everything pushed together, and a couple of pins at the top, and that's nearly this end done. The only other thing I've decided to do here is I've just got some little mini sash clamps, as I call them, and I'm just going to use them just to put a little bit of tension on to pull the ribs onto the balsa sides. Right, to the back again. All we need to do here, because they don't butt up to the rear spars, we just need to put a glue down one end, down the other end, and then what I'm going to do is, if I can, I'm just going to try and transfer some of that glue there and some of that glue there, and then offer it into position. We need to use our set square here because we've nothing to give us our level like we did on the front one. Make sure that's all nicely squared up and in line. And once that's in, again, another little mini sash clamp, a bit more important on this one, and just bring that, don't have to do it too tight because we don't want to bow the structure, but just enough tension there to keep it in position while it dries. Okay, so all we really have left here to do now, according to our instructions, is we got some 3/6 square balsa stiffeners for these ribs. They go on the top and the bottom. The bottom's straight, the top of the rib is obviously got a profile to it, so we're going to have to bend that slightly into place. Depending on how soft the balsa is, it'll be, I may just steam the balsa for a little while, put some steam over it just to soften it up, just so it's got enough bend so we can get it into position. I'll probably clamp it in position just to hold it, and we'll leave that overnight while it cures. The only other job is we've got shear webs to go here and here, and then that's our job done on the centre section. So we can basically say now that our top wing is, in terms of construction, complete. The only thing, as mentioned on the wing panel construction videos, is I've got the outer strut mounts to finally glue in, but I think I'm going to do that when we start putting the model together, because I wasn't too sure on how we were going to drill the required captive nuts holes and their exact location, although there is something marked on the plan. When you read further into the instructions, it's a little bit unclear how they're going to do it, so I just need to take stock of that, and when I'm comfortable with it, then I'll glue them in. So thank you for watching this top section. I will come back and I'll just show you the shear webs going in and the 3/16 balsa square, and then we'll say that's done. And then really for me it's to start construction of the lower wing, and the lower wing is pretty much the same construction for the wing panels as before. So if you have been following the videos, go to the wing construction videos and that'll give you the basic build. There are a few slight differences because all our servo hatches are on the lower wing, and obviously the centre section will be a different build as well. So I will probably just show you the parts of the bottom wing build in terms of the servo hatches. I'm modifying that to the instructions because on the plans and the instructions it actually has the servos sitting just on the underside, on the outside of the wing, and I like to house mine so they're fully out of view and it's only the horns peering through. Much better scale finish, so I've got to do a little modification there. I will show that, and I will also show the centre section build when we join that up as well. It's not quite as complicated as this, but it's got to be sheeted on the top. So again, if you've been following the videos and you know of the wing, this wing section, it's basically the same build except for those two little differences. I've not mentioned this, I do have a website if you're interested in looking at it. It's a very new site, it's called Ian's Radio Control Models, and you can view that on www.iansrcmodelplanes, all one word, .co.uk, and there's a number of pictures that accompany the build, and obviously the build of this model on the internet as well. Okay, thank you for watching. Right, everything's been left to cure overnight. As you can see, I've taken all the pins out that were holding all the sheeting into place. We've got two more jobs to do now, and that's to place in our shear webs at the rear and at the front. Already pre-cut these to size just to save a bit of time, and then we just got to put our stiffeners in either side of the ribs, top and bottoms, for our centre section, ready to accept our clear sheeting. So what I'll do is I'll put the shear webs in, and then you've seen that before, so then when we come back we'll try and get these stiffeners in into position, and then that's the final job for this wing and centre section to be done, apart from the sanding of the leading edge, rough sanding. Then this will come off the board and go into storage while I build the lower portion of the wing. Right, welcome back. Unfortunately I did try to video this a minute ago, my battery gave up on me, so you'll miss the part where I've put in these 3/16 square stiffeners for our skylight section. I'll just pan in as way of amends to show you them located in position. They're obviously sitting against the rib, and I've pinned them down flush with the board because they do need to be flush with the bottom of the rib. Also I've done the other side the same, and obviously in this section here there's a rib down there as well, so I've also put that into position and pinned that into place. What we need to do now is get our top stiffeners into place. But this was quite stiff wood. I mentioned the other night about steaming the wood. Again, it's such a few small bits. I've run this under warm water, these bits, and if I can get the camera to actually come over to my other table, just round here, and pan in for you. Hopefully I can do this. I need to come up a little bit higher. You'll see that these are on the table and they've got pins and they've got a curve in them. I'm just letting them get used to that curvature while they're damp, and then I will offer them up to the rib top with the same curvature on it, and then glue them into position. There'll still be a little bit of fine tuning with getting them lined up, but I'll do that, just let them sit there for a while just to get used to that shapeage and soften up a little bit, and then we'll glue them into position. Right, as you can see, I've had these on the board for a little while now, and there's a nice curve in them. What we need to do now is we need to offer this up to the top of the rib and just make sure we got our rough curvature. This is now flexible enough to be able to play around with a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'll get my glue and offer my glue up along this edge on either end, and this is where the little fiddly bit comes in now. But I'll try and do this. I'm going to try and do it in one take because I like to do it, show you that we can do it. It is a little bit fiddly, as I say, and what I'll start by doing is I'll clamp this end into position, so that's level with the top of the front main spar. Again, clamp the trailing edge end. I'm going to put a little ply wedge in here just to stop the wood from getting dented, and then hopefully we should be able to hopefully ease this up. Again, we just need to push that down again. It's started to lift. It's as you can see, it's a little bit of a tricky operation, but we'll get there in the end. Patience is a virtue here, and put our clamps in. Just need a couple more clamps, and what we're trying to achieve is about a 1/64 lip on here, so we can then get our sheeting, our clear acetate sheeting on. Once I'm happy with that, I will just run my little tool I make for cleaning out any excess glue along the lip, and just recheck that we have our gaps there. Like this end is just trying to lift a little bit, but the way I'm going to overcome that is I'm just going to put a pin in to stop it lifting up, and just check the other side again, and that all looks pretty good. Now I'll leave that in there to grab. I will do the other side exactly the same manner, and then it just leaves me to put the top capping section in on this cross member here, and then basically that's the job done. Right, everything's in place now. This is all the construction completed, except for we've just got the sheeting underneath the front of the W3 riblets on the underside, but we can't do that until we lift the model off the board. Again, I'll do like I've done previously. I'll just run from one end of the wing to the other. As you can see, there's our left wing. She's now got her dihedral unsupported, got our centre section, and then we move down to the right portion of the wing, and just to show you, there's our dihedral block chocking up the wing on the wing tip, and our set square making sure everything's level with the plans. So now all we really need to do is wait for those bits and pieces on the centre section to dry, and then I can lift this model off, and I will just roughly shape the leading edge as I've done for the other parts of the wing, and then she'll go up into storage while I build the lower wings for the model. Hope you've enjoyed this so far, and I'll see you probably on the fuselage construction now. And as promised, I will just show you the centre section of the bottom wing and installation of the servo hatches ready to receive the servos. Anyway, thanks for watching, hope you're enjoying it, and catch you later.